The models of action learning and action research on which we will focus in this course are participatory models. And what does that mean? A participatory model means that in the organizational setting, the usual suspects are not the only decision makers. Decisions aren't made only by the leaders or executives. In a participatory model of action research and action learning, all stakeholders are engaged in problem diagnosis and problem solving. There are models for action research which focus less on stakeholder participation, and I do encourage you to examine those models as well, especially if you're interested in action research in education or in the classroom. For the purpose of this course, we'll focus primarily on the participatory model. So let's start with the what of what is action learning. In the 1940s, Reg Revens described action learning as a method to aid the manager in solving problems, a drive toward effectiveness. Revens describes traditional learning, which is delivered to us as children by the educational system, as programmed learning, and proposes that true learning occurs when the learner applies thoughtful, reflective questions to that programmed learning. Thus, the Revens formula for learning is L equals P plus Q, or learning equals programming plus insightful questions. It's essential to note that Revens does not reject programmed learning. What we learn in school is still essential. However, the focus of action learning is on the questions, the Q in the formula for action learning. Some 40 years later, in his 1983 book, ABC of Action Learning, Revens says this: action learning suggests that we may best master whatsoever unknown challenge appears by working with others who seek to triumph in the same way. Now read that quote again, and maybe make note of it, or talk about it with a friend over coffee. On our last slide, I mentioned Reg Revens, arguably the father of action learning. And as mentioned, he developed the concept of action learning as an aid to managers seeking to solve problems in business. A more modern advocate for action learning is Robert Kramer. You'll read Kramer's 2007 article, Leading Change Through Action Learning, this week. Kramer makes a significant contribution to action learning by applying the work of psychologist Otto Rank's theory of unlearning. Rank's theory proposes that traditional learning seeks to change the learner from the outside in by plying the learner with new information. Unlearning, then, through the learner's own questioning, changes the learner from the inside out. The learner formulates questions, seeking new ways to understand. As the learner gains new insights in response to those questions, the learner may choose to change even the most closely held core beliefs. Thus, action learning presents an involved learner seeking new understanding, whereas traditional learning indicates the learner is compelled by outside forces. Familiarize yourself with Kramer's work and Rank's theory of unlearning by reading the assigned article and by viewing Dr. Kramer's brief outline of action learning on his academic website. The URL is listed on the slide. Okay, that was action learning. Now let's add the nuances of action research. How is it similar or different? While there are multiple ways in which action learning and action research are related and different, generally speaking, action learning is contextual, meaning the participants are learning about and solving real problems in real organizations. Those organizations may be businesses, not-for-profits, community organizations, sports clubs, churches, schools, or any other environment in which people are organized to meet a common goal. A key component is in questioning and thus unlearning in order to learn anew. Action research is also contextual and will likely have similar objectives of understanding and solving real problems in real organizations. It will also add the rigor of research and documentation in order to make the lessons learned accessible to others and perhaps transferable to other similar organizations and organizational problems.